Hello world, this is Kay.
This is R.
And we're back again with another episode of Brown Girl Reacts. And today's episode, we're gonna talk about marriage and how being brown is basically like the biggest thing that could happen in a brown girl's life.
And we're coming to you this time from Kay's room together, so the audio quality is gonna be better.
Yeah, so I think this topic is really
Relevant.
very relevant to what we're going through because we're both out of college, starting our first jobs. So it's like the next phase in our life is this big question of like marriage. And I think after that is going to be like kids, but primarily about marriage, weddings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you don't already know that you're going to get married, the expectation is you're planning on it.
Yeah, so, like, I think there's this big expectation within, like, the Indian or brown community about, like, being married, especially to someone that's, like, of a similar background as you, and, or kind of the expectation that you're gonna get married and you're gonna live, like, a very familial life.
Yep.
And contribute to society as, like, a family unit, in a way.
It's very much part of the machine, I guess, cultural timeline that you're supposed to follow. You studied, now you got your job, now get married, now have a kid.
Yeah, it's basically like a cycle. I think it's like this whole like brown culture cycle that
Asian, I would say even Asian, even more than just brown.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, even if, like, beyond that, people kind of see it in their lives, but I think the societal or the communal pressures are even more so within Asian cultures to kind of go through that full cycle of, like, school, then career, then marriage, then kids, and then keep on going, and then kind of live vicariously through your kids for a while and force them to do the same cycle as you and just keep going on and on and on. And I think especially with, like, marriage, even when it comes to, like, the wedding or who you're going to marry, it's kind of like certain expectations are already preset. Yeah. So I think we can start off with, like, the big topic of, like, love versus arranged.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, like, a big topic that a lot of brown people have, is that whether they would like to have, like, a love marriage versus an arranged marriage. And I think a lot of people like to say it's, like, arranged to love marriage, where you end up falling in love with your partner. And that's always something that doesn't happen for everyone, though.
Yeah, but now I also think that there's these arranged marriages, but there's also what seems like a dating period before, where they get to know each other for a while before actually getting married. So it is technically arranged, but they're also getting to know each other before, almost like a regular American couple would date.
Basically like a courtship.
Yeah.
I think that's what the intent is that during, like, this period where you meet, and then you basically get connected through family, and you're on the path to marriage, and you kind of, like,
testing each other out.
Yeah, but you're not gonna do it like how, I guess, the more Western version is, where it's like you meet someone, then you start going on a few dates, then eventually you decide to, like, move in with each other, and then, go through all these stages up until, like, you're ready to commit, like, a lifelong commitment to each other, per se. It's more of, like, you've already developed the fact that you're going to do this commitment, and then you're going to do everything else to leading up to it.
Yeah.
So
and if something goes wrong and you just you don't like each other, then it's a little bit dramatic, but it's better than, like, back then you wouldn't have had that 2-year dating period or whatever small dating period we have now.
Yeah, I think
so. It's a little bit better now. You can still back out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're spending more time getting to know each other compared to before. But the hope is that you will go through with it.
I mean, even so, like, during that period, I think there's this expectation that you're not gonna break. Like, you're not gonna, like it's supposed to work towards like
Yeah, you're trying to make it work, but you're
Yeah.
also like, if you find out something about the person and makes you realize you don't want to, you still can break it at that point because it technically isn't official.
yeah. I mean, I think that's true too. I think the whole dating thing is relatively new, or the idea of dating is very much like a Western, cultural aspect that has been brought into the brown community. I don't know how. I mean, I'm pretty sure like dating's been around for a long time, but the way that
everywhere in the world, it's pretty new of a concept. Choosing your own partner and not your parents choosing.
yeah, I mean that's true, but it's also like the stages of dating. You know, I think it's also like it's not as like structured as original or like typical like arranged marriages were in the past, you know? Whereas kind of like you kind of went with your parents like choice, there was a choice. Now like in the more modern age, you have all kinds of choices.
Yep. You could ignore your parents at this point if you wanted to, and they just don't come to your wedding, which happens a lot of times.
Did you go to one that had happened?
Not me, I'm saying in today's as an era,
Mhm.
people will marry someone they want to marry against their parents' wishes.
That's true,
And
yeah.
their parents just don't come to the wedding, like it happens.
Or, I mean, they just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that a lot of people in our generation, we feel like,
You live
know.
your life, like they don't want to live their life based on their parents' decision of you're gonna be with this person, because you know you're the one that has to live with that decision.
yeah. But I think there was like a survey or something that came up recently where they said that your parents' choice seems to always be better than your own choice.
Because they're more objective.
Yeah, and they kind of know like how you are as a person more so than you know yourself, and it kind of feels kind of weird to say that, but like your parents raised you, they know all aspects of your personality, so they kind of know what's better suited to match that compared to like what you feel is attractive or suitable for yourself.
Yeah, and also if you find someone attractive, you're just inherently looking at them subjectively, not objectively. Your parents are not going to be in love with your potential partner. Like, there's nothing that's going to cloud their judgment compared to you if you already like someone.
Yeah, but I think there's also this thing about looks can be deceiving. So, but I think that's true in like various different aspects. Like you can have met someone even on yourself, like without having been introduced by like your parents or anything like that, and they turn out to be, they were originally this great person, and you've had like a great relationship. And then when you get married, he turns out to be like a real dick, and like, you know, so you never know. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is that, especially with like arranged marriages, because there's this expectation to be together, that
means you hide your true personality for long enough.
Yeah, like if you hide yourself, you can get away with it per se. But I mean, the truth always unfolds itself eventually.
Yeah, and so that's why there's that courtship period now.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, because your true personality will probably eventually come out over a longer period of time compared to before, where you pretty much got married way quicker than now.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, because then you can like cross-reference or
Yeah.
basically what was said on paper to
Or
the
you
actual
actually,
person.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like at my work, people are talking about, because we're trying to hire more people. It's like there's a lot of people, they interview well, but they don't get the job done once they're hired.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing, is like, how do you find someone suitable for you if they're so good on paper versus like how they are in person? And how does that like, you know, determine the rest of your life with that person? And I think a lot of it is just like a test of faith, but it's also the idea that marriage is not about like having everything perfect. It's like building through to be perfect together. Or to be suitable for each other, because I feel like any kind of relationship is not going to be 100% perfect.
Yeah, that'd be strange. You'd have to have two perfect people that perfectly work together. What's the probability of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, you have to be realistic that not everyone is, like, I mean, there are perfect people in the world, yes, but, I think what we determine as perfect is very, like, subjective to what we idealize as, to our standards. And so when you're trying to match your standard of perfect to another person's, it can be very difficult. And I think the same goes not just for, like, how to be, like, perfect, is more like how do our moral or our ethical, like, values match up as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's, like, super important, because that's something that, like, a lot of people rush into things without really thinking about, like, you know, I guess those more deeper questions.
Oh yeah, definitely, because when you're just dating regularly or for love, it's more awkward to ask those questions straight up.
Mm-hmm.
All of those, what are your life values, this and that, you could, I guess. But with the arranged marriages, you know that you're going to ask those questions. It's not weird, because that's the intent. Both families are going forward, and they want you to both have the same values, family values, and this and that. But when you're doing regular dating, normally, like, people will get creeped out if you ask those kind of things on the first date.
Yeah, those are things that I don't think you would have until, like, probably the 4th or 5th date.
Yeah, and even then, it might scare off a lot of guys, be like, why is she asking all of this? Like, does she want to get married to me already? But...
yeah, that's very true. I think, especially with, like, arranged marriages, is that everything is already predetermined, per se, where it's like you already know how they're going to be, because especially with people that come from, like, similar backgrounds, you kind of have developed, like, the similar, like, moral codes. That's the thinking behind it, is that, like, because we come from the same religion, we come from the same community, you know, we're gonna have similar views on what our moral or ethic codes are, versus a person that's from, like, a different community or a different religion. But that's not to say that, like, you know, like, interracial or, like, interreligious couples don't work out. I think they very much do so, but it's a more of, like, you have to really work at it. And I think any marriage, you really have to work at it. It's just that there's this preconceived notion that if you're going to be from similar backgrounds, your marriage is going to be easier.
Yeah, and you were just mentioning right now that your parents are from similar backgrounds, but their families, what they gossip about, is very different. So our assumptions that you coming from the same background makes it easier is probably not even true, because you have to put in just as much work because you're two different individuals. You still got to put in work.
You definitely
maybe a
do.
Bit less, but there's lots of work.
No, I think, like, even if you come from the same background, I feel like you have to work even more, because you think
you're supposed to be agreeing on everything, but then when you're not, you're even more confused.
Because you're two different people, you're two different individuals, and there's this big thing about, it was something that I remember hearing from, like, an interview, was that it's not about finding your other half, it's finding another person or another whole being that you want to be with. So it's not about, like, because there's this thing about, like, oh, I found my soulmate, or I found my other half, or this person completes me. It's like, no, you're, like, a complete person.
Complete.
Yeah, you already have your whole, like, complete being. It's more about finding another complete being to complement you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's kind of the thing that a lot of people, I think you have to learn with experience, and that's not something that you can get off right at the beginning.
Unless you already know that.
Yeah, unless you're very true to yourself. But even then, like, finding another person that's true to themselves is also kind of hard, too.
What does that mean, finding a person that's true to themselves? Are you saying that they know they're whole and complete on their own? Or what do you mean by they know that they're true to themselves?
So I think it's a matter of, like, being independent versus dependent. So, like, if you find two, like, I mean, independent, that's kind of, like, a weird way of saying it, but it's more of, like, you are you. Like, I accept you for your entire personality, whether that is you are a shy, introverted person that don't like to speak much, don't like big crowds. I accept you for that, you know, individualistic behavior. I don't, you know, maybe, like, agree with it, but I mean, I'm accepting of it, and I acknowledge it, and I actually quite enjoy those aspects of your behavior. So it's kind of like,
You don't agree with it, but you enjoy aspects of their behavior?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like you have to accept someone for their flaws as well as for their perfections.
I enjoy it. I think you just kind of deal with it. I think marriage, a lot of it is just dealing with the other person.
Just dealing with the other person?
Yep, because you have to be around them every day.
Yeah, that's true. Unless they're like one of those people that have like a busy job, they're never there.
Oh yeah, and then that causes other issues because then you're
so
like,
many
they're not there
issues.
enough.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think when it comes to like arranged versus love marriages especially is that the thing with like love marriages I always feel is like you're always trying to find somebody that's supposed to like complete you. But arranged marriage is more of like these are two complete people with two complete lifestyles and we're going to bring them together because we think that they're a great match. Which I think is maybe why there's this thing about how arranged marriages last longer than love marriages. But I don't know if there's an actual statistic about that. I think it's more of like a societal...
it's harder to get divorced if it's an arranged marriage.
Yeah, I think it's more like the societal expectation that you're going to be together because your parents or the community has chosen this person for you versus you have chosen it yourself.
Yeah.
Because the community feels or does not believe in your choice.
If you failed, then everyone's failed because...
Yeah. Well, that develops like such a great foundation because I think for any kind of relationship or any kind of marriage, you need to have a strong foundation. And that's one of the biggest things about like arranged marriages is that you already have that foundation built in. Like they say is that a marriage is not about two people. I mean, especially like in the brown community, it's about bringing up two families together. So it's like you're bringing these two aspects or these two really big parts of your life together to form one union. That's why like in brown weddings are so big is because you invite everyone from both sides, even your in-laws. And so I think it really becomes at that point like a community event than it is like a couple's like wedding.
It's not just about you.
Yeah, it's not just about the couple. It's not about you or the bride or the groom. It's about the community and the larger whole.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's a very interesting like discussion, and I'm sure there's like different viewpoints on it. I think there's great examples of both types of marriages. I don't think there's one that trumps the other. I think there's definitely instances where
it's gone wrong.
Yeah,
You just might not know about it because it's been kept
quiet. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of cases with like, you know, especially like arranged marriage. There's this thing about like, you know, my parents chose for me. I didn't have really much of a say. And then you get these horrible cases of like domestic violence, dowry abuse, that kind of thing that goes in with it. Not all arranged marriages are going to end up having that at all. No, that's not true at all. But it's definitely something that I think is definitely like a larger, like, especially when it comes to like brown marriages and stuff, it's definitely like an aspect of it that, people don't like to always talk about.
Yeah, because it's a failing of the arranged marriage structure that
or like that institution.
Yeah, the
it's
institution.
Yeah. So, but I think like whether it's loved or arranged, I think a marriage is something that you definitely have to work at. It's something that you grow together. It's not something that you can have in a day.
Yeah, I just think that the love marriages are easier to break apart or fall apart because there's not as many things that are holding them together, such as both families aren't invested in that decision or keeping them together. A lot of times with the love marriages, with both of the parents will be like, if that other person's not making you happy anymore, you should leave.
Yeah.
With the loved ones, whereas the arranged ones, I don't think they would say the same thing.
Oh, I think it's going to be more of like, let's help you fix it. Like,
Yeah.
what is going wrong here? You know? And I think there's always the thing about like, a child will fix everything. No, a child will not fix everything. Yeah. That is so wrong.
It's just another thing that's going to force them to stay together.
Yeah, and I think then it becomes tough on the kid. And I think we can just segue into like divorce at this point because I think so I have very like strong views on divorce compared to other people. I like to say like I'm more of a traditionalist where I don't think that divorce is always a good. I think divorce is a bad option unless it's like unless it's like a really serious case and like, you know, you definitely can't be together. If it's a case of like domestic violence, abuse, you know, I really think like those are the extreme lengths. I just don't agree with people that tend to get divorced on, you know, irreconcilable differences. I feel like that is just an excuse to say that you regret the decision you made, which you probably took in a haste of a manner without really like thinking about it.
So are you saying that they should stay together because of that hasty decision?
I mean, I think you shouldn't. There's this big, I think, like, especially with the divorce rate being as it is, I think it's like 53% of marriages end in divorce, or 50% of marriages, so it's like, it's a really bad statistic, and I feel like people use divorce as an excuse to run away from their problems, especially in a relationship. So I saw, like, a BuzzFeed video recently about a divorced couple that they actually came back together after having been separated for a while, and they went through their photo album, and you could see this girl was like in tears, and she was just like, you know, coming out of like the divorce wrecked her, and like I was thinking like, okay, well, like why they kind of didn't go into so much as to why the divorce happened, but it seemed like, you know, there were things that could have been fixed per se. And at the end of the video, you can see that these two people did love each other, and they did have like a great relationship. And I think I'm also probably like one of those romantic, or like, what do you call it, diehard romanticists, where like, or what's that terminology, like a romantic?
Yeah, romantic.
I guess, yeah, basically romantic, where like I always feel like people end up together for a reason, or, you know, they always have to have, like, love for each other. And I also feel like divorce is such a hard thing on a kid. And now there's statistics about, like, how if you're a product of a divorce, then you're more likely to get divorced yourself. And that's something that, like, is super interesting to me. I know it doesn't happen in every case, that there's definitely people that are products of a divorce, or, you know, whose parents have gone through a divorce that have healthy marriages. That's not it at all. It's more of, like, you know, I feel like it's more what you've seen as a child, which you think you may or may not want in your future as an adult, and the things that you experience as a child do affect your adult life. And I think
I'm more surprised that children of divorced parents even get married in the first place after seeing how messy it can be.
Yeah. Especially if they see like a very messy split from their parents. I think it doesn't help in the healthiness of their future relationships. But, yeah, I'm one of those very strong traditionalists, where it's kind of like, I only see divorce as an option if you really, really, truly, like, if it's a really bad case. Otherwise, I feel like, you know, you should not run away from your problems. But then again, like, you know, there are people that are just not meant to be together, but then I kind of question, like, why rush into a decision like that without, you know, really thinking about, is marriage really, like, what we want as a relationship? But I think maybe it's just because I'm just too mindful of, like, those things.
Well, you just said you're a romantic, so
yeah.
you want it to last, so that it's a logical A to B.
Yeah. I think that's also the thing with, like, a lot of romantics, is that we believe in, like, everlasting love, which is not always the case. But, yeah, I think we can go into how, especially, so brown people tend to have very strict views against divorce. I mean, I think Asian people too. So, like,
yeah,
even in Asian cultures, if someone's divorced, they never let it down.
Oh, there's a lot of stigma attached to, oh, that person's a divorcee.
Yeah, definitely.
Something's wrong with them.
Yeah, they're kind of, like, outcasted in society. And, you know, that's kind of, unless you know, like, their full story, unless the community knows, like, their whole story, then,
it's seen as a really big personal failure.
But yeah, so it's definitely, like, being divorced is considered, like, a big stigma in the community. But I think it's one of those things where, you know, there's a reasoning why people are just so against it, because it is kind of like looking at the failure of the community as a whole. But, yeah, so going past all these deep talks.
Let's get into some fun.
And that's one of the
stuff.
Yeah, and I think brown weddings is definitely like a fun occasion. We did talk about how, like, you know, weddings are essentially community events.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so true, because, like, you can get, I think a brown person gets invited to, like, at least 5 or 6 weddings a year.
And they used to be really long, but of course now they're shorter in America, at least.
I think it's also more expensive to rent out venues.
Definitely.
For the full extent of what a brown wedding is like, I think
it
it's...
used to be,
yeah, it's not. And there's also, like, tons of videos of people's weddings, like, on YouTube and the internet.
It's almost like a promotion of the couple. They're so well made.
Oh, yeah, they're just, like, movie films. Some of them are, like, the movie films.
A lot of them are very, very well made. And
yeah.
I can watch a bunch of those videos without knowing who the couple is.
Yeah.
Because they're just that pleasing to watch.
Yeah, so, recently my mom told me about, this girl that's getting married in my community. And I'm actually supposed to attend her wedding, this summer. And my mom told me that her budget is $100K. For her wedding, and I was
Are her
like,
parents paying for it?
Yeah, well, it's like she's paying for some of it, her parents are paying for some of it, then the groom's parents are paying for some of it.
So it's a bunch of salaries combining to.
Yeah, and I mean, like, but
not one.
Okay,
person.
but the thing is like everyone knows, like, and I think this kind of goes into like how girls are perceived in terms for marriage versus like guys. Like, girls are more pressured for marriage than guys, in my opinion. In my humble opinion.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of, like, your identity as a woman comes as more of, like, a wife and a mother.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty much a fact. Most people would agree with that.
So, like, if you're not a wife or a mother, then are you an actual, like, brown woman? And I'm like, no, that's not true.
Well, what is your value? I mean,
yeah.
You're gonna say you're a woman, but, like, you're not valued.
No, the identity of being a woman first is not a thing in the brown community, in my opinion. I honestly think it comes after being a daughter, a wife, and a mother.
Yep.
Then you're a woman. First you're a daughter, of course, until you get married, then you're a wife, and then once you have kids, then you're a mother.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, that's why I guess motherhood is considered, like, the ideal for a brown woman.
Yeah, that's when they stop nagging you.
Yeah.
Because now you've had the kid. Now they can tell you how to raise the kid.
No, they won't stop nagging you till you have, I don't know if it's like more, if it's not the same as it was before, but until you have a son.
Oh, yeah. They don't push it as much anymore because they don't want you to have too many kids. Because first of all, it's so expensive to have kids now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they stop nagging you after you've had like the 3rd kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also like now they leave it up to the couple to have as many kids as they want.
Yeah.
But I just know that there is this whole thing about like, you know, there's so many documentaries about how women are perceived, especially daughters in India and things like that. Yeah, the goal is
still they prefer to have a boy.
Yeah, I mean that's just an old age thought of like the son will help with the family.
Yeah, but now girls make money too, so...
And they tend to be more...
And they actually take care of the parents.
They tend to be more caring towards the parents in older age than the son.
Yeah, so it's like, isn't a girl technically more...
valuable than a boy? But, yeah, so I think, like, I guess going back to our topic of, like, weddings...
the festivities.
Yeah, so there's definitely, like, a ton of festivities. I think... So, for a Christian wedding, it doesn't last several days like a Hindu wedding, of course. You do have certain things, I think, that are pretty particular within the brown community.
Traditions.
Yeah, there's definitely traditions. So, one of the biggest things that I think is similar to the Hindu traditions is going to the in-laws' house. You know how after the wedding, the bride is taken to the in-laws' house? Like, there's the whole, like, bidai, meaning the farewell, and then they get introduced to the in-laws' house, and, basically, just, you know, they do a lot of different rituals in that aspect. It's very similar in, like, the Christian aspect as well. Indian, like, Christians also kind of have that thing going on where, you know, they do go to the in-laws' house, you know, get introduced, you do all that. They don't do as many, like, the fun games per se, but they do certain rituals specific to that. There's also other Hindu traditions that have a Christian version to them. So the Mongol Sutra, which is like a necklace that a Hindu woman wears, or a married Hindu woman wears, there's actually a Christian version of it, and it's incorporated into some of our ceremonies, and so that is something that I find really interesting. There's also, I think, definitely like engagement ceremonies. I know sangeets are really popular across the community itself. Like, I think, you know, Christian wedding, or like every wedding has a reception, right? And that's usually after the wedding. And so nowadays, even like Christian weddings, they do like the whole sangeet ceremony. The sangeet ceremony is basically like when they sing and they dance, and it's when both sides come together, and that's definitely something that does occur. There's also like engagement ceremonies. Actually, what I found interesting is that for Christian, or for, I guess, Malu Christian weddings, the engagement ceremony is actually a proclamation. It's an open proclamation about the announcement of this couple getting married. And they actually introduce different people of both the bride and the groom's families. And I think the bride and the groom's, like, eldest members or patriarchs or matriarchs, whoever it is, they actually exchange a declaration of marriage, which I've seen multiple times because I've been to a few of them.
So what's your favorite part of wedding festivities?
Oh, the food. I mean, I think the food is, like, the biggest thing. The gowns, the dresses, they're all itchy and stuffy after a while. Like, they're pretty. I think from an outside viewer, it's like, oh my gosh, the colors and the clothes.
It looks nice.
It looks so nice, but actually it's stuffy and hot, and it can get kind of very bothersome. Yeah, it gets really uncomfortable, and, like, you know, I think that even, like, in regular, like, even in Western weddings, I think that's, like, the same thing, is, like, wedding outfits can get kind of comfortable over time. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot that goes on in a brown wedding, and nowadays is just taken to another scale, because I think everyone's just trying to outdo each other.
Yep.
So, that's very true.
It's just not a wedding just for you. It's like showing how wealthy the families are too.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, like, your budget was this, well, our budget's gonna be, like, way bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're gonna do, like, tens, thousands, or trillions more stuff
To
than
show
you.
how successful and well matched they are.
Yeah, it's all, I always say it's all for show. But I was talking, like, especially, like, knowing that this girl's budget is $100K, I was like, if I were to get married, I'm just gonna put, like, a down payment, like, 2 years in advance for stuff. Like, it was just too much.
A lot of people, or not a lot of people, but the people that choose to have smaller weddings, they use the money that they would have, like the $100K, they would use it on a honeymoon, because then they can actually fully enjoy doing things versus spending it all on 1 or 2 nights on a wedding.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, like, I've only been to one low-key wedding. That was Indian. That was Christian. It was an Indian Christian wedding, and it was because the groom had come from India and had just started working here as, I think, a software person or an IT person.
Typical.
Yeah, very typical. But he didn't have much family. And he married a girl who's from India, and she came and they had the wedding here. And
so
because
both of them are from India?
Yeah, both of them are from
But
India.
Got married here?
They got married here, and they got married in our church. And I just remember the church was, like, all the members from the church, we helped decorate the church. We helped arrange, like, the reception hall. You know, we were trying to do everything very low budget because, you know, he didn't have much family. Her family was not here, but they came from very humble, you know, beginnings. So they didn't have, like, a super grand wedding to show, you know.
And they also technically probably didn't have that many people to show off, too, because they're both just here alone.
Yeah, I mean, so his mother his mother had come from India.
Of course she's gonna come to her son's wedding.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was the only living parent, so that's the thing. I think it's very, especially, for, brides or grooms with, like, maybe one living parent, it's more of a financial burden on them to have, like, a bigger wedding. Because they don't have, unless they have, like, a lot of familial support, but sometimes they don't have that. So they tend to go for, like, a lower budget wedding and stuff like that. It was still a nice wedding. No joke, it was pretty nice, but it was just kind of sad to see, too. Because I was like, oh.
So at the same time, low-key ones might not seem as fun, or, like, you were saying that Indian weddings are really fun to be at, and just like the festivals and all stuff, and that stuff is more fun when there's more people.
I mean, it's like, it was more of like the circumstances at which that marriage occurred, per se. Like, I really wish maybe if they took like a marriage license, or they got married in India, maybe it'd have been like easier for them, or if they prolonged their engagement. But I think what the biggest thing was that she had come over on a spousal visa, and so that way that they could have like two incomes going on at the same time. So it was very much like, I think that's another big thing.
The thing you sent me. Oh yeah, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, so I think that's very much like when you think about like arranged marriages, it's never about the short-term, you know, things that are going on. It's always like the long-term aspects of it. So like this marriage was arranged, so like the biggest thing for them was that, you know, it was more about, like, getting married quick and then starting their own marriage life together in a new country. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of similar to, like, what happened to my parents, too.
Did they meet in India?
He was here.
In India?
They were arranged in India, yeah. So they had their engagement there, and then they did their wedding here in Atlanta.
Oh, so...
And I was the MC for that wedding. Because no one else wanted to do it. And I, as a little, like, I think I was only 18 at the time. And I had to, like, announce all this stuff. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. People backed out. And, like, no one even, like, there was one photographer. He did take pictures. But, like, everyone was just, like, apparently we only had the reception hall for, like, 2 hours.
Cool.
And usually, like, for Indian weddings, you have it for, like, 5 or 6 hours, because you have, like, the appetizer, then the dinner, and then the bride and groom enter, then you have the dances, then you have the songs, and, like, all kinds of stuff. But, yeah, it was a very low-key wedding. I still remember it, because it was one of my, like, first, Indian Orthodox weddings.
It's also different from all the other ones, so you'd remember it just for the fact that it's so different.
I mean, it was one of, I've only been to, like, just a few weddings. I haven't been to, like, extravagant weddings. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been to
you have to meet those kind of people. It's like, where do I find people that have billion-dollar weddings?
Well, I'm going to one in, like, the summer. So. I mean, we do get invited. My parents just don't go to a lot of them. And, like,
weddings.
Yeah, and, like, a lot of my, like, I'm, like, kind of the baby on my dad's side, so all of my older cousins have gotten married. Yeah, or they, like, I haven't been to them because they got married when I was, like, tiny. And, like, they're kind of way older than me. I only have one cousin that's not married on my dad's side, and then I'm the oldest on my mom's side.
Whoa.
So, like...
different ends of the spectrum on different sides of the family.
I did go to one of my cousin's weddings, like, a long time back. That was, like, when I was in, like, 7th grade. I was a child.
We're still babies. We're not real adults.
Do you like a wedding?
I haven't been to one.
Really? You haven't been to any of them?
I've been to one in India, but, like, I was there for 1 hour, and it's not like we were formally invited. It was just a wedding we walked past.
So, like,
So I didn't experience the whole thing.
That's the thing, like, in India, there's, like, at least 3 or 4 weddings a day, right? That everyone gets invited to. And, my mom was telling, we were just having this talk about, like, how in India now the scale has actually gone up. It used to, cause, like, my cousin, when she got married, and that was kind of like the first Indian wedding I went to. She had gone, like, the thing was that they did the engagement in a big hall, and hall meaning that there's a stage and, like, just rows of tables and chairs, and so they just announced the engagement, and then people ate, right? But people ate like crazy. So it was like a huge, like, you know, those marathon of, like, food eating things where...
It just keeps coming out.
Yeah, and, like, people just be eating, and they had no, like, they didn't pay any attention to the bride or groom.
Oh my God.
Not at all. And then, even at the wedding, so the wedding was done at, like, a small church, and, you know, it's crowded with people. You know, people, and, like, it's so hot, and it was humid, and it was raining, and, you know, everyone's, like, in their best dressed stuff, and then there's a mad rush to go to the reception hall, people are waiting for the hall to open, and it's, like, these halls, like, they're shuttered, they're, like, you know, there's kind of like a garage, so basically, they open the shutter, people run in, grab seats, and then they're just, like, waiting for the food. They don't care if, like, the bride and groom have come or anything like that. And then,
Food is one of the most expensive parts of a wedding.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Wedding food catering costs more than regular food catering.
I think it's, like, $100 a plate for the wedding that I'm going to. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was, like, they're hoping to serve us lobster or something.
Wow.
I doubt it. Then at that point it'd be like $500
I mean, no,
a
they
plate.
can serve you regular food,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll still be expensive because it's wedding catered food
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
food vendors that supply it.
Yeah. I mean,
They
I
mark
just...
up the prices just because it's for weddings.
It was just such a culture shock to go to a wedding in India. But now the weddings are a little bit more like more nicely done, I would say, or they emulate Western style a lot more.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
If you have the money, you will spend a lot, like, and on top of that being like an Indian wedding, you still spend like a lot.
Yeah, I don't really think any culture has cheap weddings because it's such a big part of a life.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because, like, I think old, like, Western weddings where it's, like, a small, like, you know, service with your close friends and family, I think your max budget's going to be, like, $20K. 20 or $30K. Depending on where it is, where the venue is, how much the food is, what kind of food, if you're going to have a buffet or you're going to have, like, a sit-down lunch or something like that, and then, like, a DJ. The wedding that I went to that was for a college friend was in the mountains in, like, near a vineyard. And all of their wedding pictures were beautiful. Like, it was such a nicely, like, done, well, like, small wedding. And, granted, the bride and groom were, like, 20 and 21. Like, they're really young, but, actually, I don't know if that's really young. 20 or 21.
In my opinion, it is.
And, yeah, I feel like nowadays it is. Most people tend to get married in, like, their later 20s, early 30s nowadays. But, yeah, so they got married pretty young. They're still married. And, it was a nice wedding. Like, I thought it was really nicely done, nicely put together. For being, like, very low-key, is very, like, rustic, I would say. And that's the feel I think they were going for, was, like, a very rustic wedding.
Yeah, I don't think anyone who has a small budget for their wedding wants it to be boring or that.
Yeah.
They just spend the money on things that's really important to them.
Yeah. So
Instead of spending a lot of money on everything, they'll spend it on what they really care about.
But that's the thing, I think they invited a lot of family, because they're both close to their family. And, like, she invited a lot of her childhood friends. But I don't think he had that many, like, childhood friends. Like, I was, like, surprised. I thought there'd be, like, more people at this wedding, but it was only, like, probably 60 guests at the most. And, like...
Did you say 6 or 60?
60. Like, I don't even think it was 60. It's probably only, like, 50 guests or something like that. And some of...
Oh, when you say small wedding, I think, like, 20 people.
Oh, no. It was a little bit bigger than 20 people. But, a good amount of it was actually, like, their parents' friends. Or, like, you know, they invited, like, people, like, family friends and stuff like that. And I think that's the biggest thing about, like, weddings, it depends on, like, the bride or groom or who's actually paying for it. Because if your parents are going to pay for some of it, they're going to invite whoever they want to invite, too.
Yeah, whoever has the money has the power.
Yeah, essentially. So, but yeah, there's definitely, like, a big business when it comes to weddings. And especially, like, wedding makeup, wedding videography, photography, dresses.
Same skill sets are required to make dresses, that make wedding dresses, and to make videos, to make wedding videos for photography. It's the same skill set, but the prices to get those photos, the videos, the food, the catering, the dresses done is going to be marked up just because it's for a wedding.
Would you ever have a wedding planner?
Probably, because wedding planning is really stressful. Or I'd have someone else plan it for me. I don't think I'm going to plan my own wedding. First of all, I don't care about that many of the details.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a few things that I really care about, maybe like location.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would care about every little detail.
I
just delegate that out.
I honestly feel like I would be, like, a total, like, bitch about it. So,
I can see that.
Like, I'd be very anal about, like, all these particulars, and they have to be, like, exact.
For me, I'm
and
not,
stuff like that.
Like, I'll probably have a few things I really care about, and then everything else, I'll just
get it all done.
Do it. Like, it's not my problem, I don't care.
I don't even know if I would have a maid of honor. I feel like I had bridesmaids, but not a maid of honor. Because the role of a maid of honor is supposed to be secondhand to the bride, where they're supposed to help the bride with all the planning per se and all the decisions.
But you want to do it all yourself.
Yeah, because I don't trust enough people.
Well, you don't have to make your maid of honor.
Yeah, you don't have to make them do anything per se. But, like, well, that's the thing. So, the wedding that I went to, like, a year ago, that was in the mountains, her maid of honor was, like, her best. It was her cousin. And she wrote down, like, the bridal shower. So that's another thing. Like, you have all these other festivities. And one of the things is, like, the bridal shower, right? So her maid of honor was writing down all the people that brought stuff to the bridal shower and hand wrote or had the bride hand write thank you letters or thank you notes and send them to the people that came to the bridal shower. And I was like, there's no way I could do that. I honestly don't even think I would have a bridal shower. Like, I don't think that's like...
There's no way you would want to be a maid of honor and do those things? Or you don't want a maid of honor?
I don't want a maid of honor to do it because I think it'll just be too hard on them. And, like, I also don't see anyone in my circle of friends or my media circle of friends that would be able to do that.
Well, yeah, you can just still have the maid of honor. Maid of honor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but just not have them do what that one did. It's your wedding, so you can have them do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I could designate someone, but I also don't like to designate one person to be, like, the top of my bridal party.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I don't like.
This seems kind of a hierarchical.
Yeah. And it's another thing. So, like, if you watch a lot, some Indian, like, Christian weddings or anything like that, sometimes they don't even walk down the aisle. So, usually, you know how the bridesmaids and the groomsmen are supposed to walk down the aisle before the bride comes out?
Yeah.
And, actually, they're just already lined up. So I was like, I'd rather do that. It cuts time. Like,
it's gonna cut, what, a minute?
But they're not that important. Like, honestly.
What happened in the first place if they're not important?
What do you mean? Like,
if they're just
the worst part?
They're be standing there and no one's gonna, they can't even make an entrance. That's sad. They have to spend a lot of time and effort.
Like, yeah, I mean, but...
You literally told me 2 weeks ago that being bridesmaid is expensive.
It is expensive, but that depends on how you want your bridesmaid, like, what you want your bridesmaids to do. So, like, I think, really, wedding planning is up to the really, like, how you want to plan your wedding, right?
You don't say... Did you say wedding planning is up to how you want to plan it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But, no, but there's certain expectations, like, okay, but if you have... like, certain expectations, right? Like, I mean, I think there's general expectations that all wedding planning has, and that includes, you know, developing, like, or, like, having the venue, having the reception, all kinds of basic things, right? But then there's these details that I think a lot of people realize that they don't really need to have. That includes having people walk down the aisle. I honestly think that's something that people don't understand, is that you don't need to have people walk down the aisle. You can just go yourself. Like,
but don't they have to walk down the aisle anyways? So might as
no,
well
they can
have
just
everyone
like.
seen it.
I mean,
to
yeah.
get to the front, like they have to walk. So
No,
it's
no,
not like you're
I
gonna
have
skip
seen
them.
it. No,
They're
I have
just gonna be
seen. It
standing
depends
there
on
the
your
entire
venue.
time? They're just gonna be standing there the entire time waiting for you to
Yes.
go.
No, I have seen. Okay, so that depends on your venue, because you can have side entrances. Some
So they
venues
still
have
to
side
walk.
entrances.
They're going to walk.
But they're not gonna walk down the aisle.
Yes.
They're gonna walk through the side.
Yeah, so the point is they're still walking, so what is changing here? There's going to be a set time where they're going to go from point A to point B.
I just don't want them to obscure my moment.
They're
Okay?
coming before
Because
you.
no,
They're building up to
okay.
your moment.
That's what everyone says, right? I don't agree with that,
So you're
because
going to skip the show?
that it does happen. There have been videos of people that steal the bride's moment. There's definitely
How
like,
are they stealing your moment if they come before you?
because you're okay. If they do, you know, have you ever seen like those flower girl videos, or like there's videos on
Yeah.
YouTube where people like do stuff and
Oh,
like
so you're afraid people are going to remember the bridesmaids more than you?
yeah. Because I mean, honestly, I don't even like having a ceremony, because I feel like like Indian Christian ceremonies are actually pretty long sometimes, and like especially the Indian Orthodox one. And I was just like, there's a moment in the ceremony where we sit down. That's how long the ceremony is.
They
Where
give
we
you a
have to
break.
sit down, yes, and you get lectured by either a priest or a bishop. And the wedding that I went to, I remember the one I emceed for, it was done by a bishop, and a bishop is a celibate person.
Oh.
And he was lecturing about marriage, and I was like, this is the most ironic thing you can be saying. I mean, I feel like maybe like that's what Catholic people feel sometimes, is when a Catholic priest, who's supposed to be like celibate, talks about marriage.
Yeah, like what would you know?
Like, what would you know, really?
You're just talking theory, nothing.
Nothing practical.
Yeah, and you don't have experience. Just...
But, yeah, I was like, it was such a long, like, service. I just remember it was long, and the fact that we had to sit in between,
It's like an intermission.
Western weddings happen in, like, 20 minutes.
You had an intermission in your wedding.
There was an intermission in
They
that
let you
wedding.
take a break and sit
Okay,
down.
but at least we were able to sit down. There were weddings where you had to still stand.
Nah, I'd be like, I need to take a... I'm going...
So, in Hindu weddings, I guess like
I
in
haven't gone, so
yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, like, the stuff that you see on, like, like, wedding videos and stuff like that, it just seems like it takes forever. Like, at one point the sun is up, and the next one it's
Yeah.
down, or it's, like, dusk, and you're just like, what? Like, why is this taking so long? Just talk faster.
Yeah, well, I think also with Indian weddings, did I go to one? I don't know, it was probably just from a regular Indian event I went to, but it
Mhm.
was like a formal event. People were still, there were things going on. People were announcing, they were talking, there were performances, like on the official stage, but people throughout the entire wedding were just talking like nothing was happening.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
like,
very rude.
I mean, that's
In my
like,
opinion, when someone's on stage or there's
Mhm.
someone talking on stage,
yeah.
you listen to them.
Oh, no.
Throughout those events, like they were just talking like they weren't even at an event.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, Indian weddings are very much community events where you're basically going there to meet other people. Like, you're not
Yeah.
really, you don't
So it's
really
not
care
your
who's
wedding.
getting
You're not
married,
paying
per se.
attention to
Yeah,
the
you're not getting, you're
wedding
paying
the
it,
entire time.
no.
You're just hanging
Which
out.
is why I'm one of those people where it's like, I'd rather cut through all of that crap. Like, I don't
A
even
lot of
want,
people are like that.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, but the thing is that there's this, like I said, there's this expectation that you're gonna have people speak. You're gonna have your maid of honor speak. You're gonna have this groomsman speak. You're gonna have family speak. No, I don't want you to speak at my wedding. Like, I'd rather you keep shut. Like, I don't want to hear
What are you gonna do?
a
You're
word
just
out
gonna
of
say
your
I
mouth.
do and be like I'm done now.
No, not at the actual ceremony, but the reception. That's when a lot of people just have to have something to say, and I'm just like, no. Like, I remember seeing,
Yeah, just don't
did
have
you
this.
see Gucci Mane's video, wedding? So Gucci Mane got married to, his long-term girlfriend, and they've publicized it on BET, and I remember watching it with my mom, And, like, it was such a fancy schmancy, like, of course it's a Gucci man, and he had money, and he rolling in dough, so he can afford all those things. But they even show, like, the reception, and all these people just, like, I mean, the fact that, like, they have, like, all these people give, like, speeches is really nice. Like, some of the speeches were really kind of cute and stuff like that. But it's, like, why? Like, I don't want to cry at my wedding, but, like,
You're
they're just,
going
like,
to.
No.
Everyone cries at weddings. Well, not everyone, but lots of people cry at weddings.
yeah, a lot of people do, yo.
You're not gonna cry?
No, I'm gonna be stone cold face. Like,
I
why?
feel like you would cry at people's weddings.
No, I've
You
never.
cry at babies. Why are you not gonna cry at babies?
Okay, but babies are a different
Kids, not
thing.
even
Like,
babies.
yeah, kids are a different thing. But, oh yeah, as I was saying, I don't like emotional talks at weddings. Like, I just get so annoyed. Like, I think it's just, like, it's just not...
So you want a fun, not sentimental wedding?
Oh, for sure, because I don't want people to be bored. I hate it when people are bored. Or, like, if you're boring and you come to my wedding, you just need to eat and leave. Like, I'm
That's exactly
sorry.
you.
Yeah, like, because, I mean, I think it's more of, like, I just don't like the sentimentality of it, because I feel like... So weddings are supposed to be, like, a precursor to your marriage, right? So if you start your marriage off with tears, per se, or you start your off on very sentimental notes, then how emotional or rocky is your marriage going to be?
I mean, I think people still cry at weddings because it's such
That's
a big
true.
change and transition in life.
Yeah,
And
but that's
people
my
always
transition. Why are you crying over my
Because
transition?
people get emotional.
I guess they empathize a lot. But, like, I mean, it's supposed to be a happy event, and I always feel like tears are meant to be shed through sadness.
Yeah, but you just said
More so than happy.
You cried because of their potential for the kids.
But I also said, like, they're underprivileged
Yeah.
circumstances.
I mean,
is why I mainly
guess
cry about.
Most of the people that cry at weddings aren't trying to cry; they just end up crying.
Yeah, they just empathize, or, like, they just feel so
They feel
connected.
things.
Yeah, they just have the feels.
Yep.
And I'm just like, stop. But, yeah, I
If you
think,
cry.
yeah, there's definitely, like, I just have certain expectations when it comes to weddings. Like, for me, like, my own wedding. But other people have their own expectations for their own stuff, so.
And
then-
a statement that is obvious. It's just like your other statement about when you plan your wedding, you plan your wedding. You know, you just said other people, when they have expectations for their wedding, they have expectations.
Very obvious. Oh, man.
Those are the notes from this video.
Yeah. Basically, when you plan your wedding, you're planning your wedding. Wedding planning is planning your wedding. I think the biggest thing...
Okay.
Yeah, basically. Those are my remarkable quotes.
Yep. That's how we're gonna remember you.
Basically. Yeah, so I think we covered pretty much we wanted to cover in weddings and marriage.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole aspect of just the fashion, and don't Indian brides have several outfits throughout the day?
Yes, so...
And they also have jewelry and the makeup.
Oh, yeah, that's
There's
like a...
whole nother.
It's a whole nother thing about wedding jewelry and, like, the value of gold,
Mhm.
especially within the brown. I think that could be, like, another
This topic could
podcast.
never end, honestly.
Yeah, but, like, I think we pretty much covered, like, marriage, divorce, and weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... Is there anything left to say?
Not for today.
No, I don't. I think that's pretty much it. But if you have any input or comments, then please, comment or let us know, and we'd be happy to communicate with you.
Yes.
I hope the sound quality has been better on this episode. So I guess we're signing off. Until
We are.
next time.
And next time, Kay will be across the country from me.
Yep, that's true. I will not be in the same room anymore.
Nope. Oh, and what is today's date?
Today is April 19th.
Yeah, we forgot to do the date last episode.
Oh, last episode was April, I think 11th? We did last Wednesday.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And we've still done. I'm proud of us.
Definitely. We are on a roll.
Yep. With all of our 2 views on YouTube.
Don't worry. All great things start slow.
Yep.
But, yeah, so I guess we're signing off. I'm Kay.
I'm R.
And this is Brown Girl Reacts. We'll see you another time. Bye!
Bye.